Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, good morning.
Sorry about that. There was a little mix-up on the location.
That's okay. We're just happy that we're live.
Yeah. So what's going on? What can you tell me about our bill?
Well, we have some kids ready to tell you, so we're going to turn it over to them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Been doing a little research, so we'll turn it over to them. Thanks, Emily. Yes. Scarlett.
Can you guys remind me of the bill number again?
1333.
1333. Nice round number.
My name is Scarlett Solace, and
Scarlett, you may have to speak up just a little bit. Yell. Yell.
my name is Scarlett Solace, and my question is, what is your opinion on what's happening to the bill? Has it died in where it's at right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'm just looking at the bill status real quick. I would love you guys to brief me on where the bill is at in the process. Have you taken a look at the bill report lately?
Yeah.
It's
in the Senate, the number of times.
It's in the Senate right now.
Right. So let me click on that. Yeah, so I'm looking at it, and it looks like at the end of March, it passed through the Higher Education Committee, and then it went to the Rules Committee, which is where it has to go to be eligible to be pulled from that committee to go to the floor for a full floor vote. So it looks like 1333 was close to passing, but it didn't quite get there. Now, here's one thing I want to check on. We talked about the companion bill, right? Keep going up.
Let's do it now.
And then it's the hyperlink. Do you guys remember when we talked about the companion bill?
Yeah.
What do you guys remember about our conversation about companion bills?
But if one doesn't pass, then we can still get the other one too.
Exactly. So,
No,
you guys, when you look at,
Melissa and Brian, come up and start talking about
yes.
the companion bill.
Oh,
has anybody taken a look at the companion bill and the bill status there?
yeah.
Hey, what have you found on the companion bill? Do we remember what that number is of the companion bill, the Senate companion?
5234.
Very good. So what do you see about the companion bill?
It looks like our Senate Bill 5234 is on the governor's desk right now. Would that be correct?
Yep, that's what I'm seeing.
Does that mean we got it passed?
Yeah, so I'm going to share this bill status with you guys on the screen real quick, and we can look through it together. All right, can you guys see this bill status? Is it big enough for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we scroll to the top, right, we're doing what you guys have done with your bill status. So if we scroll down a little bit, we go to this, I like this visual they've done this year, this bill status at a glance where it has the dots. So what do we see? It passed the Senate, and then it went to the House, and it passed the House, and it passed the legislature. The key things now are that the president of the Senate has to sign it, which is pretty standard. And yes, you see the next desk, if you can circle that, Brett, on the governor's desk, right? That's where it's going. Now, this is something I should know off the top of my head, but I believe the governor has about 20 days to sign a bill, but I'm going to actually have to get back to you. Actually, this is going to be your homework. Will you guys look up, you should be able to find it pretty easily online, how long the governor has to sign a bill. In some cases, I think it's 10 days. In some cases, it's 20 days, depending on where we're at in session. But the short answer to your question is my reading of this situation is it looks like the companion bill passed the legislature and is just awaiting final signature on the governor's desk. The other thing is that you should not at all feel bad about 1333 not making it all the way through. Rarely will they take two companion bills and pass them both. At some point in the process, they'll choose one or the other to move all the way through the process, because you don't need two identical bills to pass. That would just be redundant. So very frequently, the legislature, as the bills are moving, they'll pick, okay, you really want this bill, Senator, whoever was the prime sponsor, I think it was Mullet. Okay, well, you can have it, but we're going to get this other bill that we like by one of our prime sponsors in the House. So great job. Other questions?
You can tell her it's 10 days.
I think Sherry asked this question, but we've noticed that House Bill 1333 has been sitting in the committee for 20 days. Has it died, or is it just sitting there? But
Yeah. So based on our conversation, what's your opinion?
What do you think if it's been sitting there? Does anybody have a thought? You think it's?
I think they just dropped it, but they went with the.
Well,
I think they just dropped it.
Right. It wasn't needed, right? That's one of the beauties of having companion bills, is it gives you basically twice as many opportunities to get the same policy passed. I guess that's one way of thinking about it. 1333 is no longer relevant because the same policy in the companion bill has passed. So while 1333 may have died, right, the policy looks like it's on its way to becoming law. So again, it's okay that 1333 died. And in fact, that's one of the things we see about companion bills. 2 companion bills never become law. It's always one or the other, right? You guys are, you're sitting pretty. A lot of bills, remember, it's only about a little less than 1 out of 7 bills actually pass the legislature and become law, especially this session. It's been very, very, very contentious. So you guys are batting at a higher average than most of the lobbyists down here in terms of your success rate, 1 and 0. Nicely done.
Thanks.
And we looked it up. The governor has 10 days.
10 days, right? Okay. So I was almost close.
Yeah.
There's sometimes during some special sessions where they get into some wonky rules. There's a 5-day rule at some point. But yeah, so 10 days. So let's see. And I don't have any reason to believe that the governor would veto this bill or veto sections of the bill. I don't think that it's politically contentious or that, he really has it out for AP tests. Yeah. The one thing, if you guys wanted to, and can you scroll down, Brett, just so I can see? One piece of advocacy to make sure that it gets across the finish line being the governor's desk, is you can send an email to the governor's staff asking that the governor sign the bill. This is a standard procedure that we do in the advocacy world, that we do on behalf of our clients once a bill's passed, right? You're 98% of the way there and all you got to do is get a governor's signature. You really want to make sure that it gets to that final step in the process, because how disheartening would that be to move it through basically the hardest part of the process and then just have it not get signed by the governor. So one piece of homework you could do that's like real world lobbying is go online, go to the Governor Inslee's website, and look up his government relations or policy specialists, and then try to find the person who sounds most senior, right? Who's got a title that's most senior, like director, and send him an email and say, we've been working with Capital Classroom. We've been tracking this bill. We support it for these couple of reasons. Please sign it. We know you have 10 days, right? Please sign that. So that would be a great real world advocacy activity that you could do that would help ensure that this bill becomes law.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wait, what does your sweatshirt say? Straight out of
Filter. That's what
very nice. Very nice. Other questions?
I only have a statement.
Oh, good.
Drew McGowan, he said, overall, I'm supportive of high school students earning college credits whenever it's applicable, I guess, and possible. So, but we found out that he voted no for the bill.
And I'm sorry, I missed the very first thing you said. Who said this?
Drew McGowan.
McEwen.
Drew McEwen.
Drew McEwen, Representative McEwen, your state representative. Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What did he say?
He said, overall, I'm supportive of high school students earning college credits whenever it's
Applicable.
what?
Applicable.
Applicable
Mhm.
and possible. But he did not vote for the.
He voted nay.
We did not.
Yeah, he didn't vote.
He voted, but he voted nay.
He voted nay.
He voted nay, huh? So yeah, so I'm looking at the vote count, and it looks like it was 71 to 26. Nope, above the roll call. Yep. Yeah, I see that. So it looks like it was. It looks like it was all Republicans who voted. No, interesting. One of the big education people, Monica Stonier, voted against it too. Interesting. Yeah. So is your question why?
Yeah, why he was.
Why did you
That is your question.
Yes.
So did you guys watch? That's a good question, and I don't know. I don't know why exactly he voted against it. I think we should find out because he's your state representative, and part of being an active citizen is making sure that we're holding our elected officials accountable or understanding where they're coming from. Because, you know, sometimes they have factors that they're considering that are things that we don't necessarily consider as well. So did you guys, when did you hear him say that? Was that the floor on final passage? Was that in committee? Do you remember at what stage you heard him say that?
He emailed us.
Oh, he emailed you. Excellent. Well, good. What else did he say? Did he provide any other context in the email?
Just read the whole thing.
Yay. It says, thank you for your message in support of substitute House Bill 1333. The bill did not pass out of the House of Higher Education Committee. It has been referred to the House of Rules Committee for further consideration. Since I do not sit on the House Higher Education Committee, I have not seen the bill yet, so it's hard for me to say how it might affect students. Overall, I'm supportive of high school students earning college credits whenever it's accountable and possible. That could, however, be more pressure on students in AP classes to work harder, and I realize those classes are very rigorous and there's additional pressure. I'll take a look at the bill if it gets out of the Rules Committee. Before I go, with kind regards.
Yeah. So that's a really rich piece of correspondence for a couple of reasons. And I want to get back to soon the how he voted and why. And I think it's worthwhile asking him, sending a follow-up email and asking him. I think it would also be really good as a piece of homework for you guys to watch the House floor debate, okay? So when this bill went to the House, so you're going to watch the House floor debate for the Senate bill, right? So the Senate bill passed through the Senate, and then it came over to the House, and it passed the House. So I would like you to watch the floor debate and hear what people are saying about it on final passage, because that will give us the best clue as to why a number of people voted no and why some people voted yes, okay? So that's a piece of homework for you. And I can help your teachers find that. You have to go to TVW's bill archive. Unfortunately, they don't post the floor debate on the bill website, which I'll take that up with the folks at TVW at some point. But so we'll get that for you. Think about that email though for a second, okay? So I think my guess is that that email was probably written by a staff member, maybe an intern. It strikes me as sounding a little bit like a form email. So obviously legislators can't go through every single one of their constituent correspondences because there's just so many and they basically don't have time. So a lot of times they have staff answer those emails, okay? Now, what did we hear him say in the email? He didn't he didn't take a firm position one way or another, right? He said essentially, the bill hasn't come before me yet in my committee. I haven't had a chance to look at it closely, so I'm not going to commit one way or another to whether I support it or not. He used kind of generic language about, generally speaking, I support higher education when it's applicable and whatever the other word is, right? So this is just something to notice as you're being critical thinkers. That was a really nice way for him to not commit one way or another, right? And why might someone do that, right? It leaves it open for him to be able to make a final decision. He hadn't made up his mind yet, and so he sent that sort of generic email. But be thoughtful when you're, reading the news or seeing, news clips on Facebook or whatever else about how people position themselves, right? In this particular case, your state representative was able to sort of get off the hook with you guys about not giving an answer one way or another. Will he support it? Will he not? He said, I don't know yet, which is, fair. But that's kind of an artful way of dodging a question sometimes. And that's part of one of the things I always like to tell folks is when you're trying to lobby your state representatives, okay, or your state senators, and you need something for them, one of the most important things is to make a clear ask, a yes or a no question, right? Can we count on your support for this bill upon final passage? Can we count on you to be a yes vote, right? That's a clear, unambiguous question that can only be answered with a yes or a no, right? So this kind of it depends answer is something to just be mindful because it's a interesting way of not having to commit one way or another. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, next question. Good morning.
Morning. So we emailed Senator Tim Sheldon.
Yep.
And we got an email response back that says, thank you for contacting me regarding House Bill 1333 and its companion bill, Senate Bill 5234. I appreciate hearing your views and concerns. Senate Bill 5234, a bill that I voted in favor of, House Bill 1333 passed in the representative houses. I want to thank you again for writing and expressing your thoughts. Please contact my office if you have any further concerns or ideas.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. So one thing to note about you, your state senator Tim Sheldon is in a very interesting position. You guys know what party he belongs to? Tim Sheldon, your state senator?
Well, they take their head off. I think he's a Republican.
Right? So Tim Sheldon is a Democrat.
Cool.
Okay. Your two state representatives, Dan Griffey and Drew McEwen, are both Republicans.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things about Tim Sheldon, who is gets elected as a Democrat, he for years now has not caucused with the Democrats. So he actually, for all intents and purposes, belongs to the Republican caucus because he chooses to align himself with Republicans. And about 4 or 5 years ago, he did this with a couple of other Democrats that decided to do this too. They basically left their Democratic colleagues and chose to side with the Republicans, thus giving the Republicans a functional majority. So while there are technically 25 Democrats and 24 Republicans, Tim Sheldon works with the Republicans. He doesn't caucus with the Democrats. So he gives the Republicans basically he's the tie-breaking vote for the Republican caucus. And so you have a very interesting state senator because of what he's chosen to do with his his political affiliation with the Republican Party, despite being elected as a quote unquote Democrat. Just a fun fact that's very specific to your legislative district.
I agree with
I'm Bradley from his master's class, and do you think that the governor will sign the Senate Bill 5234, and if so, when?
Yeah, like I said, I imagine he probably will. I think that this bill was worked on quite a lot, and if you watch the floor debates in the House and the Senate, I think what you'll hear is that there were many iterations of this bill to get the language right, so that all parties could agree or that they could strike a grand compromise. And usually when that much work goes into a bill and you have such a high bipartisan support, so it looks like it passed the Senate unanimously when it came over from the House, when it came back over from the Senate. And then it had 71 to 26 votes. That's a very high percentage of bipartisanship. So my guess is the president, or excuse me, the governor will sign it. And then, of course, it would need to be within that time frame, which you guys identified as 10 days. So he should probably be signing it any day now. And like I said, I would suggest that you reach out to the folks in his government relations team and or his policy staff specific to this issue to encourage the governor to do just that.
Thank you.
Thank you
Does anybody else want to?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hammond, you have one? What is it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you guys. Remember to watch that house debate so you can understand a little bit more about why some people may be opposed to this, because they'll have a good one.
Yeah. Can you send us the link to that video you were talking about?
I absolutely will. Yeah, I absolutely will. It's a little bit hard to find, but I'll do that right after this, and then you guys.
What's the most controversial bill that's passing today?
And also, do you know if there's like any controversial bills that are being passed right now? So like we'll hold our bill back from being signed with the governor.
You are asking some very good questions. You guys have a couple minutes still to talk?
Yeah, we have like 5 minutes.
Okay. So your question is a great question, which is sometimes things get caught up in larger toxic political battles. The answer to your question is I don't think that there's anything that's going on right now that's going to keep this from being signed by the governor. That's the good news. To give you a little bit of context about what's happening right now in Olympia, regular session is due to adjourn in less than a week. This coming Sunday will mark the end of regular session, okay? I was on a conference call last night with a lobbyist who's been doing this for over 20 years, and he said that he's never before in his life seen a session that was so contentious with the two parties, the House Democrats and the Senate Republicans, so far apart, both in terms of their ideology, in terms of how they're negotiating, so they're not even close to a deal, and then also just the math, just agreeing on what is the number that we need to be thinking about in terms of fully funding education. Forget how we get there. Forget if it's raising taxes, forget if it's closing loopholes, but even to just agree on what we call it the size of the box. How big is that box that they have to fill? So it is, I would say, almost unprecedented right now about how much of a disagreement the two parties and the two chambers are in about what to do with the legislature. When you can't agree on how to do a budget, there's also a lot of other things that get caught up in that. So it's K-12 education is the number one thing that everybody's focusing on because, as you might know, there's a state Supreme Court case that says the state is not meeting its duty to fully fund K through 12 public education. Along with that, there's all sorts of policy bills, including some that I'm working on, that are getting caught up in this larger disagreement. Well, you're not going to, do this for me, so we're not going to pass this bill for you. Additionally, check this out. We're about to go into what's called special session, which is sort of like overtime, right? Typically, you go into 1 or 2 rolling 30-day special sessions, and that's for them to typically focus on the budget. This year, we are anticipating the special sessions going at least through, get this, June 20th. June 20th. The government has to start shutting down a number of its services come July 1st if they haven't passed the budget yet, because they don't know, basically we need to pass a budget in order for the state to continue to function. So they're waiting around till June 20th to understand what the revenue forecast is, which is just a basic way of saying how much more or less money is going to actually come into the state than we think. And so basically we're at a stalemate right now where the two parties have no sense of urgency to finish their work on time. I mean, could you imagine? It would sort of be like if your teacher gave you an assignment to be due on Thursday and you said, well, you know what, I think I'm actually going to turn it in about a month, right? It's absurd. And that's not what we elect our elected officials to do, is to be late with the work that they have. So the context of the session is very unique. There's very little sense of urgency. All of the legislators are resigned to going into special session. Most of the legislators will go back to their home districts, including yours. Only the members of the leadership team and the budget negotiators will actively stay to work on the budget. But one thing, if you guys are interested, is you could contact your local representatives during special session to have a more in-depth conversation with them about this bill if you wanted. But anyway, it's a contentious session here, and we will anticipate going into multiple special sessions probably through the end of June.
Thank you.
That's swell. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for all your help.
Thank you, Seth.
Bye, Emily.